In a world crafted from dreams and porcelain stood the Golden Cup Kingdom, a land where happiness flowed like tea in the morning.
And the kingdom's most precious jewel was the princess, Ballerina Cappuccina, whose dance could make flowers bloom. But such peace was not destined to last. For where there is light, shadows lurk. This shadow had a name, Bobrito Bandito. His power was absolute, his ambition limitless. He came for one thing and one thing only, the kingdom's most precious jewel. In a heartbeat, she was gone, leaving behind only sorrow. Grief settled over the Golden Cup Kingdom, a cold and bitter brew. But from the depths of despair, a spark of hope was ignited. A royal proclamation was declared.
A call that many answered, but none could fulfill. For the path to the princess was guarded by more than just darkness. It was guarded by chaos. Far from the splendor of the palace, in a village forgotten by most maps, lived a young man with a spirit far larger than his simple world. His name, Tung Tung Sahur.
And it was on an otherwise ordinary day that news of the kingdom's sorrow finally reached his remote corner of the world.
It was not the promise of reward, nor the dream of glory that moved his heart. It was something far simpler, a pure and honest desire to help.
And so, with the well wishes of his people, he set off on a path few would dare to walk. His first challenge, however, was not a monster or a beast, but the towering walls of prejudice.
Brought before the king, he offered no boasts of strength nor demands for riches. He offered only a promise, spoken from a true and simple heart.
And in the boy's honest eyes, the king saw something he hadn't seen in all the great nights: hope.
He was given a map, its parchment worn and its lines faded. It showed the way to a place of steel and smoke, Factory Island.
But the advisor gave a solemn warning. The journey was fraught with peril, a path too dangerous to be walked alone.
And so, the true journey began, one boy against an empire of darkness, armed with nothing but a map, his courage, and a burning spirit.
The map led him away from the rolling hills of the kingdom towards the endless expanse of the sea. And there, as the map foretold, he found a home built from forgotten voyages. He knocked, but the only answer was the sound of a strange rhythmic tap. For the master of this house was not inside it, but had become one with the ocean itself.
Tung Tung knew at once. This was the one the advisor had spoken of, the hermit of the sea. The hermit's voice was as calm and deep as the ocean floor. He had long since turned his back on the troubles of the surface world.
But Tung Tung spoke not of rewards or glory, but of a kingdom's sorrow and a princess in peril.
But the troubles of the world had a way of finding even the most secluded shores.
In that moment, the simple boy from the village became a warrior of unwavering resolve. And as he watched the boy fight with such purity of heart, the old hermit made a choice.
The hermit's eyes saw not chaos but patterns, not armor but the flaws within it, the instincts of a hunter.
With newfound clarity, Tung Tung's spirit burned brighter, his strikes finding their mark with perfect precision. He had sought solitude to escape the world's troubles, but he now understood. Some tides cannot be turned back.
And so, the hero was no longer alone. An alliance was formed, not of words, but of shared purpose.
But this new path held its own guardians, sworn to protect their domain.
A silent hunter, a guardian of the fog, one whose village had already been turned to ash by Bobrito's greed.
To this wounded warrior, any stranger was a potential foe, a possible agent of the enemy.
The assassin moved with impossible speed, a blur of shadow and steam, a strike before the sound. But speed is a pattern like any other, and to a hunter's eyes, every pattern has a countermove. But the young hero's greatest strength was not in his weapon, but in his heart. He met a challenge not with force, but with an offer of alliance. In that simple gesture, the lonely guardian found something they had lost long ago: trust. A new alliance was forged, united by a common enemy and a shared hope for justice. Together they reached the final leg of their journey, the fiery mountain that guarded the entrance to Bobrito's industrial fortress. But the heroes were not the only ones watching their progress. Every step they took was being carefully monitored by the architect of their quest. For the man who had sent the hero on his way was not a loyal servant of the king, but a silent partner in the kingdom's betrayal. Unaware of the deception, the heroes faced the first of the mountain's guardians. The mountain tested each of them in its own way, demanding not just strength, but wisdom and control. And for the silent assassin, the test was one of absolute precision, a dance between light and shadow. Their trials complete, they stood united once more, before the very gates of their enemy. But the prize they sought, the captive they had come to rescue, was not living the life of a prisoner. She was living the life of a guest. The monster and the maiden were not captor and captive. They were collaborators. The fortress of the enemy was open. Its halls were silent. The path to the princess was undefended. But the hunter's instinct screamed a silent warning. This was not a fortress. It was a cage. And there she was, not in chains, but waiting for them, as if on a stage. Blinded by his pure heart and the sight of his goal, Tung Tung saw only a princess in need, his quest finally at its end. But he had not reached the end of his quest. He had just walked into the heart of the trap. The trap was sprung. The heroes, who had fought through mountains and monsters, were now caught, outplayed not by force, but by deceit. And then, the true architects of their downfall revealed themselves, their masks of loyalty finally cast aside. The reason was as old as time itself: greed. A bankrupt kingdom, a wealthy industrialist, and a fake kidnapping designed to forge an alliance through marriage and seize control. And for Tung Tung, this was a blow far deadlier than any sword. His spirit, once a raging fire, was now reduced to cold, bitter ash. Their purpose served, the heroes were now nothing more than loose ends to be tied. In the belly of the beast, hope dwindled. For the young hero, the weight of betrayal was heavier than any prison door. But the wisdom of the ocean knows that every tide, no matter how low, must eventually turn. A true purpose cannot be extinguished by lies. And while one hero healed the spirit, the other unlocked the cage, proving that every skill has its moment. The cage was open, but the prison of the mind was a much harder one to escape. But in the heart of the conspiracy, another betrayal was unfolding. A puppet, it seemed, had decided to cut her own strings. She revealed the truth. Her compliance was a mask, her quiet agreement a strategy, waiting for the perfect moment to expose the true traitor to the crown. And so, the final mask fell away. The advisor was not a partner, but the puppet master, using everyone, including Bobrito, to achieve his own ambition, the throne. Her capture had been real, but her spirit was never taken. She chose to play the part, to walk into the lion's den to unmask the snake. And seeing her courage, her sacrifice, and her true heart, Tung Tung's own spirit was reignited. He was not fighting for a princess, or a king, or a kingdom. He was fighting for a hero. The final battle had begun. A clash of spirit against steel, of heart against greed. While one battle of wills began, another of wit against machine was joined. The hunter faced the alpha of the mechanical horde. And the final duel was one of shadows, a battle of speed and steel, between the betrayed assassin and the master of deceit. But brute force is no match for the patient, relentless power of the ocean.
A battle of speed can only be won by one who is faster than thought itself.
And the boy with the simple heart unleashed a spirit more powerful than any weapon, a fire that no greed could extinguish. And so the conspiracy crumbled, its architects brought down not by an army, but by 3 unlikely heroes.
A princess was not saved that day, for she had saved herself. But a kingdom was, and a deep, unspoken gratitude was offered between true heroes.
They left the island of smoke and steel behind, returning not just with the princess, but with the restored honor of a kingdom. A kingdom was safe, a conspiracy was ended, and an unlikely friendship, forged in fire and tempered by truth, was just beginning. For the world is wide, and there are always new adventures waiting beyond the sunset. And the Golden Cup Kingdom, once shrouded in sorrow, was filled with celebration and laughter once more.